Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about my day 4, day 5 update for Toxic Rain Ballista, which is also going to be the last one. So on day 4, basically, we killed all non-Uber bosses, including Feared, and was overall as comfy as we tested before, so nothing really there, but it was still nice that it all came together. Now, we did upgrade a little bit afterwards because we did have some luck with unique drops from the bosses, but at this point, this is as much as I'm going to put into the character, so yeah, at this point, I'm ready to kind of finish the upgrades. So one of the biggest upgrades that we made was actually this bow right here. Now, Crucible gives us a ton of options to get strong mods on. The strongest being level of socketed dexterity gems or level of socketed bow gems. If we craft a bow like this, which I have a guide, we're going to talk about it in a second. A bow like this with basically +1 socketed gems, +2 to level of socketed supported gems, which scales your empower. So it's basically like +2 socketed gems. Attack speed, chaos damage over time multiplier. And you put your main setup into all of this, it's going to be extremely strong. As well as that, there is the 30% increased attack speed, less global damage, which it's a local mod, so it's basically a more multiplier for your attack speed. As you can see right here with the Harvest enchant, I'm at 2.28 attacks per second on a Thicket bow. Now, I'll link this guide down in the description, plus free bow crafting guide for Toxic Rain Ballista. Definitely check that out. The only thing that I would change is because Crucible trees are so important this league, and you're not going to get the perfect Crucible tree on exactly a Hunter Thicket bow. All you change here is at the end, instead of one of the exalts, you use a Hunter's Exalted Orb. That will also secure you the increased chaos damage over time. Also, I can link you the VOD down below where we actually crafted it live. It was incredibly fast. I think it took like 15 minutes or something. It is basically a deterministic craft. You just need the currency for it. In total, this bow costed me, for crafting with the Hunter's Exalted Orb, 5 raw divines. The Hunter's Exalted Orb, as of this recording, is 2 divines, so that's 7, plus whatever the 6 link costs. And if you bought the base instead of making it yourself, then that is also a cost on top. So very expensive upgrade, but it did increase my damage by around about 60 to 70%. Yeah, this is definitely something you want to get. Now, one thing, once you have this bow, is you definitely want to get a Empower. It doesn't have to be a level 4 Empower. We bought that later. We before just had a level 3 Empower, which I think goes for like 90 chaos as of this recording. But you need that so that the +2 socketed support gems actually gives you +2 levels of your main skill. Other than that, now that we have our 6 link in our bow, we could actually upgrade our lightning coil. Now, we did 6 link this, which is completely useless, but we just had a 4 socket basically lying around because you don't need the second 6 link. So what I decided to do instead at that time was just buy an increased damage corruption. Not needing a 6 link here alleviates a lot of costs. We just did it for shits and giggles anyways, but that was what we did at the time. Then I bought a Taste of Hate to kind of stack together with Lightning Coil right here. And I upgraded my Quiver. We kind of wanted to craft this at first because I really wanted the damage over time multiplier. But I said, let's just call it there. We bought this Quiver with 1 bad stat. I think it was crit. And we annulled exactly the crit. And I was like, okay, we're going to leave it there. You could probably get a better one, but I was like, it's going to be fine. So the perfect Quiver for you would be double damage over time multiplier, like a Hunter base, chaos damage over time multiplier, damage over time multiplier. We're very starved of that multiplier, so that is very strong. Increased damage with bow skills, very strong. Life roll is always nice if you want resistances. I definitely felt the extra totem placement speed being a huge upgrade in this case. From the implicit, if you can't get it on an artillery quiver, which you would have to craft yourself, because it's a ritual base, it doesn't just drop really well, right? Then you can also get it on a suffix on boots, which we don't have. We did upgrade our boots, though, to get spell suppress capped. But there is a craft from Betrayal where you can basically craft totem placement speed up to 30%. I think the same is true for an amulet. We actually opted to stay with Blood Grip because the extra life recovery was just very cozy. Also, something we upgraded was to a Watcher's Eye. Now, I did say in the POB originally that I wanted to go for Vitality Watcher's Eye with life recovery, but a lot of people have gotten that memo and they're now buying them up. It was quite expensive. So I just bought a different one for 60 chaos or something. Where is it? It is here. This gives you phasing while affected with haste. Having the phasing only on kill over here on Avatar of the Hunt was kind of getting annoying. Sometimes you walk into mobs and you just have to stand there and wait until you kill something. I didn't want that. Now we have perma phasing and it feels incredibly good. And the thing is, and that's something important that you have to understand about +2 levels on skills is after level 30, the skill level scaling falls off significantly. So until you get to level 30, it's around about 10 to 11.5% depending on the skill. And after that, we're talking 5 to 6% more damage. So it's significantly less valuable afterwards. And since we get the +1 extra level from here as well, that makes amulets a lot less interesting in terms of plus to levels. Don't get me wrong, it's still really good. I'm just saying once you're in the end game setup with a level 4 in power, with a really good Crucible bow, then it kind of falls off. Still missing the damage over time multiplier from the Ami and from the Quiver quite a bit. Could still upgrade the damage. But at this point, I feel very comfortable with what I wanted to do with the build. So if you want to know more about the build, I have an end game build guide where I talk about where I would push the build further. I talk about Enlightens, I talk about Progenesis and whatnot. Definitely check that out. But what I want to do at the end here, kind of like as a segment, is talk about what I learned and how I would critique my own build. The first thing that I would critique is I should have found a way to be tankier earlier. A lot of people like being tanky from the get-go, and they would have to acquire a lightning coil in order to do so, which is very annoying. Against fizz hits, you really just want to be good from the get-go. So I think what I would have done if I did it again was make kind of like a Determination Molten Shell version before you get into Lightning Coil, have a Granite Flask, right? We had that, but I didn't really focus on Determination. So maybe kind of fit that in somehow, especially in comparison to the Champion, which I had no problem at any point because of the Fortify, because of the Aura effect. It was just absolutely smooth sailing. This build did in between have some problems. And whereas now I feel very tanky with like the Taste of Hate, with the Lightning Coil, with the whole Permaflask setup, that was not the case sort of like in the early to mid game. It wasn't really a problem until red maps, but it definitely was a problem. I will say that the region from Pathfinder was as great as I thought it would be, and I definitely remember how annoying it was on the Champion to always have to reactively press your flasks. So I wish there was kind of a way to merge those two things. I'll think about it a little bit more, but that was definitely a problem in mid game. And I think the biggest problem was actually Porcupine cards. They give you a level 50 short bow. So my plan was kind of, you don't need a 6-link lightning coil, right? You just get the 6-link from the Porcupine cards. But the Porcupine cards give you a level 50 item, and that means a lot of the stuff can't roll. A lot of the good Crucible mods can't roll. So that was a little bit annoying. So then you have to decide between getting a 6-link lightning coil or did you upgrade from Quill Rain? It was a little bit awkward. Now, next thing I will say is phasing on kill is definitely not optimal. Usually on my Ballista builds, I like having phasing on my Flask or having perma-phasing. The problem in this case was just that, well, you just cannot go for a Quartz Flask in this build because your Flasks are too valuable. You can't waste it for, like, phasing doesn't scale with Flask effect, so it's just a waste. We just kind of had to make this do, but I should have definitely mentioned to get something like this a lot earlier. Then also, I was a little bit too focused on duration. Now, I think against bosses, it did fine. It helped me a lot, but I did replace my Anoint, for example, for Acrimony. I was missing damage over time multiplier anyways. It's a cheap Anoint, and the extra duration didn't really do much. It's like a poison build that has like 6-7 seconds duration, where the enemy's dead most of the time anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The same I felt with Toxic Rain, especially with moving targets, where it didn't matter how long your pot stayed there. You wanted the initial upfront damage. So that's sort of a thing where PoB can kind of deceive you into going for too much duration. And then also a thing here is I should have definitely in the cluster down here, I should have pathed like this, right? Instead of going around here. This node here is negligible, but pathing through here means you get 2 of these, which give you even more totem life and 30 totem physical damage reduction. Definitely a good tip from a lot of people who commented and some people who talked about it in chat. From here on out, that is, I think, the way I'll just do it. Also, by the way, on the totem survivability side, totem survivability does scale with levels. So Ballista totem, the higher it goes, the more HP you have. So one upside, for example, of this bow as well is that you go to level 24 and you will definitely see that improvement in survivability. But what are my overall thoughts at the end of the road here? I think this build is smooth as hell. I had a lot of fun. It was as clean as of a league start as I could have hoped for. Other than like the small hiccups where the defense kind of lacked somewhere in mid game, as we talked about. Overall, love the build, and I will still be farming with it over the next 2 days or so until I have money for my next build. More on that soon. And I will definitely update this build unless they nerf it in some kind of way. I think this one definitely deserves that, just like my Explosive Arrow Ballista. And I might also think about implementing Mana Forged Arrows. Now, Mana Forged Arrows was kind of a question mark before the league started, so I didn't really want to include it. I didn't really know up to like Thursday before the league even how the stats look, how it works. But I think there's definitely a clever way to implement it. Maybe even more than just automating your Frenzy or Ensnaring Arrow. We'll have to think about that once the next league comes around. But overall, when it comes to League Starter, really happy about this. And yeah, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.